What's up, everybody? Welcome to NWA Nurses with Attitude. Today we got a fire episode for you guys, talking all about Leanne's experience as a manager. So if you're a manager or you're looking into getting a management position, or you just want to know what it's like to be a manager in nursing, check this episode out. Like, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hey Joe, happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Are you in your jammy jams?
Yeah, we're chilling in bed today, recording early morning. Well, I say early morning, but it's like almost 11 a.m.
It's pretty much early morning for us.
Yeah. We try to take advantage of these Saturday mornings when we're not working or whatever the case is, So having a chill day this morning.
Yeah, we're just chilling out. Yeah, I think we should just jump right into it. Today we're going to be doing an episode talking all about Leanne. Just curious about her experience as a nursing manager right now, or nursing supervisor. I don't know your formal title.
Yeah, so I guess before we jump in, Joe, I just want to say to the people, make sure you guys are sharing this podcast. We are having several consistent listeners every week, which is very exciting. So, we really love doing this, and just continue to share and listening. Joe, to answer your question, I am a nurse case manager. So I guess just to give you a bit of background about my role and what I do, I work for a private home care company in Alberta. Our company actually spans over British Columbia and Alberta, so both provinces. I'm a nurse case manager. I oversee the LPNs, healthcare aides, even some RNs at a lot of our sites that we provide casual staffing to, and our community clients, typical community nursing agency, if I had to describe it in like one quick short form.
Okay, cool. And what kind of services do you guys actually offer? Is it just kind of PSW services, or do you guys do is it like nursing services as in you just do like checkups, or is it like shift nursing where you send nurses actually in and they just monitor for like 8 hours?
So we do a combination of everything. So we have housekeeping staff, to assist typically seniors within the community as they age, with some household tasks. We have, healthcare aides or PSWs that can do personal care. We have nurses that can do, post-surgical assessments, wound care. Some of our clients are, like I said, they just had recent surgery, like a hip replacement, things like that. So they need dressings changed. They also need a healthcare aide to come in, help them with their shower, things like that. We do have RNs as well. Typically, right now, I'm finding that a lot of our RN staff we're using for facility support. So one of the roles in our company is to, during COVID, we really tried to expand our support into facilities because everybody knows nursing is so short staffed. So, and I'm sure a lot of people who have worked in facilities have seen agency staff come in to support. So essentially, I work for a company that does that as well. So a lot of our RNs work in long-term care to support the sites. But yeah, Joe, we really do offer, a wide range of support. Right now we have, clients that we have contract with WCB Alberta. So we have clients that are in recovery from a workplace accident. So we do things like, checking in on clients or dropping ice to people or, really anything.
Cool. Wow. So it really sounds like you guys have expanded since you got the job. Because I remember talking to you like a year ago, and I don't think you guys had that contract at the time, and it seemed like the scope was a little more specific. Now it seems like it's very broad.
Yeah, so a part of my role in Alberta was to expand the market. So our company is, thriving and doing very well over in BC, but over the last 2 years or so, I guess, just before COVID, we had expanded over into Alberta. So we are still relatively new and growing here, but a part of my role is also to do a lot of marketing and to build, business relationships and to, um, not to just oversee the teams, but to build business. So,
Hmm.
my role I think is a little bit different than any other typical like nurse case manager that you would see from like, Nurse Next Door, who's like or Bayshore, which is like an already well established company, where I'm kind of like a jack of all trades right now, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
that actually sounds really cool. So in terms of, I would say the nursing part of it is you're overseeing and like delegating, and I guess you do some training as well for the staff going into the homes. And then on another end of it, which isn't as nursing related, you do kind of like public relations, social media. You're trying to like market your company.
Yeah. So, um, within my role, so when I say I oversee a team of healthcare aides, um, nurses, and RNs, my role is to do the in-home assessment. So, I'm still using my nursing skills, things like that. But um, when we get a client in the community, it's my responsibility to meet the client, do the in-home assessment, obviously to make sure that it's safe for us to send staff there. I've never come across anyone that's a hoarder or anything, but there are some safety precautions that we have in place and, things that we look at when viewing a home. And, when I do meet with the client, it gives me a chance to do, a face to face, one on one conversation. We get to chat about their needs.
Hmm.
And essentially, after this visit, Joe, what I do is I then come back to the office or back home or whatever, and I make a care plan. So a lot of my job is doing the assessment, determining what the client needs. I then make the care plan. I'm then responsible to set up the healthcare aid or whatever type of support this client needs. I schedule their first visit, and then on the first visit, I actually meet the healthcare aide with the client. I do a formal introduction. I review the care plan with the healthcare aide, and then they're free to provide support. So that's sort of the in community role. But then, like you're saying, in addition to this, I also run the Instagram for our company. So I'm doing a lot of social media. I do a lot of marketing. So I have a company vehicle. So a lot of my day is driving around, just trying to establish presence of our company in Calgary and Edmonton. Um, I post a lot of flyers and stuff at community centers. I'm calling long-term care homes to see or retirement homes to see what their staffing levels are like, trying to build relationships with sites. We do actually staff several rural sites in Alberta. So some homes, up in northern Alberta that, they have difficulty maintaining staff because they are a rural site. We send out travel nurses for that. We really do it all.
Wow, that's so cool. So in terms of assessment, would you say that your assessment skills are more sharp now since you're doing like an initial assessment? And I don't think I've done that, but working in Ottawa at the long-term care homes, when we get people in, they're usually assessed by a nurse from the CCA, or what is it? It used to be the Ottawa Lynn, but now I think it's the
Yeah.
CCA or something like that, CAC. But they would do that initial assessment, and it would be like a super in-depth, all areas of their life. And then when they come into long-term care, we obviously do our assessment pretty much all day and every day, but it's more of a focus assessment. So would you say there's a difference between the assessments that you used to do as a nurse versus the assessments you're doing now?
Yeah. So, like you say, the assessments you would do in long-term care, whether the assessments related to like post-fall or medication or whatever that type of assessment may be, um, that's a very focused assessment. So, the assessment I do in the home, I'm not really taking out my stethoscope. It's more of a conversation. And then I also offer to take vital signs just to keep a baseline of the client. So then every drop in visit I do, I can remeasure their vitals. And if anything's off, we can sort of recommend that to their doctor. But
Okay.
um, in terms of assessment, it's more of, tell me about what just happened. Tell me about your fall. So let's say this client is coming back from hospital post fall. What happened? How did you fall? Were you wearing shoes? Do you have a walker in place? Do you have like a lifeline necklace? Do you have bars on your shower? Like, I'm doing a full environmental assessment in
Yes.
addition to trying to get a bit of history on what type of support the client needs. And then I can recommend from there the hours that, this client may benefit from. So, it may just be 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours at night for AM and PM care. It may be a full 12-hour shift. Every person's needs are different. So I think one thing I love about this role, Joe, and that's very different from long-term care, my past, work experience, is that I get to advocate for the client. So it's up to me to decide what amount of care they receive. So in long-term care, you know, like we've said before, 40 residents to, 3 to 4 PSWs or healthcare aides, they get like 3 minutes per person, really, realistically. When you break it down and do the math, it's not a lot of time. And so in community, you know, there's definitely some benefits and pros and cons to community, but I get to advocate for this client. So I can say, Betty, you could really benefit from 8 hours a day of having someone in your home to support you. And I just love that about community, Joe. I think that long-term care and retirement homes, people pay a lot of money and they just don't get the support they need. And that's something I've always struggled with.
Yeah.
Um, One of the reasons I wanted to dabble into management is because I really wanted to advocate for people. And I really struggled to do that in long term care, not because I didn't have the voice. Let me tell you, I would like fight back and push back, but because of the rules and the system, they don't allow
Yeah.
for any type of flex.
Yeah. There's definitely a huge hierarchy that the best nurses and the people who mean the best, you might want to care for someone, but you're stuck in a full system. One example, I think you must know this one. This is everywhere, so I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this because I'm pretty sure this is everywhere. But usually at long-term care homes, when someone has passed away, they have to pack all their stuff up within 24 hours, which I just think is completely ridiculous. I don't know about you, Leanne.
Yeah, at the facility I worked at, I think they gave them a week, which was
Oh, did they?
a lot of
Holy
time.
cow. Okay, well
Yeah.
that's okay. Now I really hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. But the
Well,
facilities that I've been to, and there's been like multiple, even as a nursing student, I remember that from day one. Like someone passes away and it's like 24 hours, and that's just something simply that you want to change, but at the same time, there's someone waiting for that room. So I also understand the urgency of it.
yeah.
But that's just what I think of when you're kind of saying you want to make a change, but now you're in a position that you are the manager, you direct the care, you can use your assessment and kind of give them what they need. But what I will ask you is, even though you're in that position, do you still find some kickback? Like, do you still find some things that you wish you could do further, but you still find that your hands are tied?
Um, I mean, yeah, so, a part of my role, like I said before, was to assign a healthcare aide to the client. And I'm maybe a bit more particular on who I hire because I want good staff. And so I think a lot of the kickback is in community, when they're paying for a service. They don't mesh. The feedback is that they don't mesh well, caregiver to client.
Okay.
And, even though this person's qualified and I feel they're a good fit, the client may have some pushback in terms of, oh, well, they didn't do this or they didn't do that. And that's sort of, I think that, Joe, the only thing that really comes to mind, because you have to keep in mind these people are paying for a service. It's not just like a government support. You know what I mean? So I really try to
See.
find a good fit for clients. Now, that being said, we're still relatively a small company and we're still growing. So, I may not have the capacity to do that in the future, but right now I still really do strive to do that. But yeah, I think I'd say that's the main pushback I get, you know?
Hmm. Which is difficult, right? Because even working in hospitals, like you're not going to get along with everybody. And especially this work gets more intimate because you're going into someone's home. So if you get two people that don't mesh together, like that
Yeah.
of a deal breaker, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough. And then if they're not happy, I mean, they just kind of move on to another company, which is obviously something we don't want. We want to
Yeah.
be able to provide them support. But I think the thing that sets us apart is that I do still strive to, find a good match for people. Whereas, like, you get these other home care companies, you get whoever the hell they send, like,
Then
too
the first,
bad. You
yeah,
take it or leave it.
yeah, which is so difficult because we are in this huge healthcare personnel shortage. So I understand that, but I
Hmm.
also love what you're saying. Even when you were saying that your assessment just doesn't involve a stethoscope, is that often we think as nurses, and in school, I find they really hammer this into you, is you walk around with your stethoscope and med surge, your pathophysiology, and you have to get in there and you assess them and you treat them and you collaborate, which is really fun. And it's like the nursing you see on like Grey's Anatomy and stuff, but
Yeah.
in reality, you're looking at all these factors, these environmental factors, who this person really is, and you're trying to find care specific for them. It's not just a cookie cutter, one size fits all.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I absolutely love that because that goes down to the palliative care approach, which,
Mhm.
Leanne, like that's all my stuff. I love the palliative care approach.
Yeah.
Um, I actually worked for a company in Ottawa. I'll give them a shout out. Their name is Spark Life Care, and um their whole entire model is actually that it's finding care specific for you. So whenever they hire
Mhm.
people, so they'll hire like housekeepers,
Yeah.
respite workers, they hire nurses, they hire occupational therapists. You have to, as a worker, you fill out like all the things that you like doing, all your hobbies, like what kind of things you like. You go in, they kind of get a vibe for who you are, and whenever they get a client, that's exactly what they do too. They get all their hobbies, they find out their vibe, and they actually hook you up with the people that they think you will like, just vibe best with. And the goal is to create a relationship, not just for me to go in and do ABC, but for me to go in and like have a new friend. Which, and I know what they struggled with was the boundaries. Um, but simply put, we did have professional boundaries, right? But we
Mhm.
we didn't have boundaries in the sense like I would go and hang out, and I became friends with a lot of my clients. And it led to better care. There wasn't like this strict like you need to wear scrubs or you're a nurse and this is your client. It was just I'm hanging out with this person today and I'm providing care in a very chill environment. Um, and I love that company. I'll stand by them. I think it was great because it just eliminated that you get the first person that comes to mind, right? And
Yeah.
it's nothing bad for anyone. There has been people that when I worked there and Jelena worked there too, that we met up with people and it just wasn't a fit. Like they were like no, and we were like yeah, we don't know if this would be like the greatest fit.
Yeah.
Um, and which I think is fair, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think Joe, you know, like you say, a lot of our nursing experience in school comes from a very clinical background. It's about treating an illness or a disease or an impairment of some sort. It's never emotionally focused. So when
Hmm.
I walk into someone's home, I'm in their bubble. So I'm not going to be like, okay, well, dinner's at 7 and this is this and blah, blah, blah. It's what is your routine?
Yeah.
Because then I can base my recommendations around, okay, well, you're not a morning person. So I'm not going to send someone at 6 a.m. I'll send someone at 11. It's in addition to that, what are your likes and dislikes? What do you do in your day? Do you like to garden? Do you do puzzles? Like, it's an emotional connection that I want to provide support from. It's not just oh, we're here to give you a bath and see you later. That's not what
Yeah.
we strive for. I really try to, when I make a care plan, it's not just, oh, it's post fall, you know, there's a grab bar in the shower. Like, those are important things too. Don't get me wrong. We obviously add those, but we add in a section of, well, the client has a dog and likes to take the dog for a walk, or the client likes to eat popcorn, or I don't know, random things,
Yeah.
anything that they tell me that I can fit into this care plan. it that gives, the healthcare aide that can paint them a holistic picture of the person.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Yes. It sounds like the foundation of your care is client centered. The client's in
Yes.
the middle of the bubble. And like you said, these interventions that we do as nurses are obviously important, the fall risk interventions, the medical interventions, whatever it may be, those are very important, but it has to be led from a holistic point of view, that
Yes.
client's in the middle. And often I find sometimes the client gets pushed to the side and we just get very obsessed with, does this person need a fall, like does this person need like a posy alarm, do they need fall mats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus I remember one lady, she kept falling, she kept falling, and she had everything, Leanne. She had a posy alarm, fall mat, like everything, bed alarm, but she just kept getting up and falling. And it took us to go in and talk to her and to realize that we had put her on a higher dose of levodopa. And if you
Mm-hmm.
know what levodopa does, it's a Parkinson medication. It increases the dopamine. Well, what's schizophrenia, guys? Schizophrenia has high levels of dopamine in your brain. So I spoke to her. I realized that she was hallucinating. I looked that she was on 200 milligrams of levodopa, and it was recently increased. We went back. We decreased that medication,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and she stopped falling. And that was focusing specifically on her. It took one conversation with her to realize that this isn't Betty Smith. Like this isn't who she is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But often, we wouldn't have known that if we didn't know her, if we didn't know who she was as a person, right? And why she's falling so much.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a poor example to use, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good example. You know, in community care, you don't get a patient history. Long-term care, you walk in, you have a binder. You have all the information about someone. So in community, you have to build that. You're not walking into, you know, you don't have any resources available to you. So when I meet with a client for the first meeting, I'm building that resource. So the more information I can get, Joe, really the better. The better care we can provide, the better communication we can have with their doctor or daughter or son or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
I think the assessment interview is very important.
And how important is it? And I know we've just been talking about this, and I already asked, but how important is that like initial relationship with that person? Because you say you walk in and you build that relationship. Has there ever been situations um where it's been really difficult to create a relationship and
Um, I don't think so. Joe, when families are typically reaching out to us, it's at a moment where they need help. So, either the family's been caring for their loved one for so long and they're burnt out, or they had a recent fall. It's always, they they always call when it's a bit too late. Um and that's just sort of how it works, unfortunately. You never really get a call before someone falls. It's always after.
yeah.
So when I come in to do the assessment, you know, they are in a position of they just need support. So if I can, sit with them, have conversation, understand, the parameters and what they're needing, provide, some emotional support, then, they pretty well continue with service. The only
Yeah.
thing it ever really comes down to is the cost for a lot of people.
Okay.
And of course, the government of Alberta here is putting in some plans to help subsidize home care and things like that moving forward. But yeah, I think that, that initial meeting is so important because they're not just meeting with me, they're meeting with 7 other care managers and they're feeling all of us out. So if I can be the one to make the connection, then we get the business.
Yeah. And so is there any part of it that is covered by Alberta? If they
Um,
care like
yeah. So Alberta does a self-care managed program where they send in a nurse to evaluate the support that you need. Now, Alberta Health Services is cheap. Okay, Joe, they'll like they'll quote someone 1 hour a week. What good is 1 hour a week? Like, give me a break.
Right. Wow.
So, anyway, they did that in Ontario too, and I'm sure that's true across Canada. They're just stingy, and people need more assistance than that. So, I don't ever want to be like, I would never just walk into someone's home and be like, oh, you need 8 hours of care a day. I really try to be realistic in what they need. And yeah, every person is so different. So, in terms of government subsidy, there is a program, but currently only offered in Edmonton. I think they're piloting the project and then it will be expanding over into Calgary and all the other major cities. But um, yeah, it's something that the government definitely needs to step up on because they're not really doing.
That
Uh,
much, eh?
it's just that they, when you get through AHS, they don't offer a lot, but then AHS contracts out companies. So the contracted companies, then they can make their own conclusions on what care like the client needs. Um, and I think that's a better way of going about it. Um, because we can take the time to sit down and assess,
Yeah.
and really, really feel out the client what they need. Like I said, find a good fit for each client, etc. But
So I wonder, and this might be taking it really deep, but do you notice a difference between your clientele and like socioeconomic status? So if they have to pay for most of the cares out of their own pocket, is there a difference between, do you notice a lot of people who have more money versus um, people who kind of live, let's say, like in like poverty, right? Like, do you see? I don't know if you can like make that call, but do you see like a higher level of living in the people that you care for?
yeah, so I mean, with any private service, Joe, we don't typically deal with um, clients who have lower income.
Yeah.
Um, that's not to say we don't at all, but typically those clients will use the government programs and the type of support, or they will go to long term care where a lot of their, room and board is paid for by government, whatever the case is. Those are, not, I'm overgeneralizing here, of course, but
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say a lot of our clients, um, would be to sort of like the middle class to upper class. Just like anything, if I can't afford to go
Sure.
to a chiropractor, I'm not going to go to a chiropractor. If I can't afford home care, unfortunately, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I think healthcare really needs to make some changes in terms of, obviously we see this day to day, Joe. Long-term care, there's lists that are years long. People die
Oh,
before they even get a bed. And then they oh, I get so riled up about this, but
and I think that's some of the issue though is most of these people who are also going in LTC, they're just the ones who can't afford like home care. Um,
yeah.
because there's a lot of people and where I used to work, there was this huge initiative to make home care accessible to those on the waiting list for LTC.
Yeah.
So you'd go on the long like the waiting list, but they would do like another assessment to see like, do you need care now? And they would have this like nonprofit organization. Um, and it wasn't really anything medical, but it was a small things from you need your groceries, like you need someone to come walk your dog, and they would have volunteers and they would just go and do those simple things. Because unfortunately, the reasons why a lot of people end up in LTC, long term care, is because they just can't do those basic things. Like they literally just need a little bit of help, but it's expensive. Like the private care can be quite pricey. And that's a great comment you make too. Like chiropractors, like a lot of people. I grew up definitely on like the poorer side of things. I didn't know what a chiropractor was until I met my wife. Like she was like, "Did you go see a chiropractor for that?" I'm like, "Chiro what?" Like
Yeah.
like why would I go see chiro? Like what is that? But that's just the reality of if you don't have the money, then you don't get access to
Exactly.
right. So
Exactly. Joe, I look at, everyday people. If your benefits don't have dental, you're not going to the dentist every 6 months. You
Yeah,
know, such a simple example, but that's the truth. If you can't afford the support, I mean, you can't pull money out of your ass. Like, really, you know?
just have
These,
to do it. Like,
yeah. So,
if,
anyway, and all to say, I think the government needs to do more and to provide, I mean, obviously, our emergency rooms and long term care homes and retirement homes are all overrun because there's no
because
umbrella support in the community.
well, yeah, because we live in this crazy system where it's like we have universal, like quote unquote universal healthcare.
Yeah.
But those who have money, it's almost like they can still get ahead because they can get the privatized healthcare. At the same time, they're still using the public healthcare as well. That
Hmm.
the people who only have the choice of, going and getting the care from like long-term care hospitals or whatever,
Hmm.
it's getting overran. And I agree. I think the government kind of needs to fix a few things. And I think the most important thing for us to realize in terms of like that specifically is that just not everybody um has that access, and just be aware
Yeah.
of your status,
Yeah.
of like how blessed you are, and like
Hmm.
well, just to be able to afford that, because there's mental health, there's generations of trauma, there's a lot of factors, injuries, right? Like that put people in a position that they can't afford it. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's important. Um, so in your position, because you like, and from my knowledge, like you were never really into management, eh? Before this position.
No, so this is my first role within a well, I was a manager at McDonald's in high school, but other than that, in nursing, I've never worked in management or anything like that.
Do you use any of your skills from from McDonald's into your in your position now?
Hell yeah, man. Okay, so I think that I'm a firm believer in that it doesn't matter what type of job you do, you can gain skills from it.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Um, a lot of people may not know this, but right out of high school, I actually took business marketing and I was in marketing for 2 years. Um, and, I just decided that that role wasn't really for me. Now, did I learn a lot about marketing? Well, hell yeah, I was in it for 2 years. And now look at me, 8 years down the line, I'm literally marketing every day and using those skills. Even though
Oh,
at the time, Joe, I never really thought I would use them. And I was like, oh, this is boring. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do door to door. And like in my mind, I had all these negative connotations about marketing and, but I wasn't in the right environment to do it successfully. And so I still use those skills. As even just working at McDonald's, you learn order, you learn time management, you learn communication with your team. There's so many skills that you can leverage within any type of position.
yeah, I love that too. Like you were a manager at McDonald's in high school, then you took business marketing, and you waited 8 years, and now it's kind of coming back, and you're learning those things. I think that's cool, because I think there's a lot of people right now kind of wondering when, like when am I going to use this? When is it going to come and play? And you just gotta wait. Like,
Yeah, I'm also a firm believer in, even if you're not technically qualified for a position, you should apply anyway. Even if you don't have the proper education, apply anyway. It honestly, you never know what could happen. The company may call you and offer you something else. You have no idea what's out there unless you try. Now, I know there's like recruiters nowadays and things like that, but I would say like 9 times out of 10, you don't just sit at home and people come to you. You need to go out and apply for positions that, maybe you may not know that you'd like to do, but try. Like we said in a previous episode, Joe, like just try anything. Apply for anything. You never know what it's going to bring you.
yeah, sometimes you have to kick the door down. Like some
Yes.
things aren't just gonna fall on your lap and you're gonna get it. You have to kick the door down, get what you want and what you deserve. At the same time, if you're not qualified, I literally say this during interviews. I might not be qualified, but I'm qualified to learn. I'll learn anything. And if you
Exactly.
have that attitude, guys, like you could literally get a job. And even if it's not in nursing, you could literally get a job anywhere.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
it.
Yeah, I would agree, Joe. I think that, to be honest, when I was relocating to Alberta, I was applying for all kinds of jobs. I applied in long-term care, I applied as director of cares, I applied everything I could find within nursing. And this one happened to land on my plate. And, I think because I had the business background and, the nursing knowledge, that's really what drew me to them, or them to me, was that I had some of the marketing skills and things that, maybe most nurses aren't really into.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and it's been so great for me. I get to work from home for majority of the time. I mean, I am out in the community, but yeah, it's really led me to, I guess, just happiness in the workplace.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really seems like you're in a position where you're able to make a difference and you're still using your nursing skills. You're still using that critical thinking and assessment as well.
Yeah. And, Joe, as I mentioned in the COVID episode, I don't want to say I hit rock bottom, but COVID was really tough on me. And, you know, going through that, I wasn't really processing as I went. And so I became burnt out, obviously, like a lot of us did, us nurses.
Yeah.
And taking a switch in career to something that's not, I'm not running on the floor every day, and I'm not, just physically running every day, has been so good for my mental health. Like, I can't explain the relief that I feel in the position I'm in. Now, not to say that this position doesn't have its stresses. Obviously, it does. Any type of nursing position can be stressful, but it's just a different type of stress, a stress that I'm able to digest a little better than I did during COVID.
Yeah. And you're able to focus on like your clients, what it seems like. Because when you're on the floor, like it's very difficult to do care plans. Now we do it anyways because that's what we have to do. But when you have
Mhm.
like a load of like 32 or like 40 residents at one time, and you're giving all medications, you're dealing with all the things that pop up, you're dealing with family, you're dealing with people going out, doctor's appointments, follow-ups, assessments, and then doing a care plan on top of that and using that critical eye, that's the exhausting part because you're constantly running, you're constantly documenting, like you're always on doing that floor nursing. Whereas now it looks like, and you said like obviously there's some things that I'm probably brazing over because I'm not in that spot that you're in, but you're able to focus on the actual critical assessment of the client and don't have to worry as much about, that those other things.
Yeah, for sure. It was tough though, Joe, at the beginning. I loved working on the floor. I loved being one on one with residents and, teasing them and, really having a sense of community in terms of our nursing team. And, where I worked at the long term care home, I had and still have a lot of, friends and that I talk to every day and things like that. But the transition for me from long term care to floor nursing to a management position was a bit tough. Like, it came with its own, um, uh, struggles, because
Yeah.
I was moving from, interacting day to day with clients, and, or I should say residents, and, being with them and, making sure their care is done properly and whatever the case is, to being with nobody,
Yeah.
like not providing one-on-one care. Now,
Yeah.
like, I still get to go out and talk to residents and the clients and things like that, but it's a different type of nursing. And
Of course.
the adjustment was tough. Like, I'd always say to Ben, like, should I get a casual position somewhere to like still be able to do care? Ben's like,
Yeah.
if you want, like, baby, I already work full time, but
Yeah.
it was tough. But um I think there's a bit of a transition no matter what position you move from, whether it's from emerge where you're running to, maybe to peds or something. I'm just
Mm.
trying to make a point here. But yeah,
No,
that
sure,
transition was a bit tough.
yeah, oh for sure. Like the care changes and it's different parts of the medical system, especially what you're working, Leanne. Like that's a whole different part of the medical care system. You know, it's not like long-term care is more usually near the end word
Mm-hmm.
of someone's life, where this is, and I'm sure you guys do get older people as well, but it's more like rehab and whatnot. And also in the middle of COVID, you switch and then you go and like you're at home, you know, doing your job all the time. The one good thing about going into work, I guess, is that you get that socialization, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
well,
I still have that. Our team is based in BC, so I am at the moment overseeing both Calgary and Edmonton areas. So I don't physically have a team here with me, a management team with me, but we do have a team over in BC at our head office. And, they're so great at making me still feel connected.
yeah.
We chat over Zoom, over the phone, email all day long. And yeah, I think that now I don't know how to say this, but if I didn't feel so supported, I don't think I would be as happy. Like Joe, I feel so appreciated in my role, and that's what makes me so happy to do what I do. Because in long term care, don't get me wrong, caring for residents, that's why I became a nurse. I want to care for people, I want to advocate for people, I want to make sure that people receive their proper care, but you're not appreciated. And my like love language is appreciation. I just want to feel like I'm doing the right thing. I want to be thanked. I want to feel like I am a part of a team, a part of a bigger cause. And, I really feel that in the company I'm with now. But in long term care, a pizza party doesn't really make me feel appreciated. It doesn't, like a thank you card doesn't really make me feel appreciated. I just want managers to come around and say, "Thank you, Leanne." Like,
Yeah.
that's all it takes, man, is communication. And
But
I feel so supported now, Joe. And I think that
yeah,
that's like a major reason why it's been so successful for me. And I feel so good in this role.
yeah, that's awesome. So you feel like they're a lot more genuine with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have such a good team and we have such good open communication. And I just can't say enough good things about our team. But yeah, I look back in long term care and we had a good floor team, but the management team wasn't always supportive. Like,
Yeah.
mind you, I worked at a huge facility, like 450 beds. It was huge.
Yeah.
How could the management possibly have their toe in everyone's, you know what I mean? Like, I understand the dynamic, but man, I felt underappreciated. It was like, do you want to work overtime today? And I was like, no, not even a chance.
Yeah.
Hell no. And they're like,
Like
oh,
you just want to
fine.
get there as soon as possible, eh? Like,
Like, yeah. And they give me so much pushback. Like, fine. Well, what do you mean, fine? Like, what about, okay, thank you, Leanne, for at least coming in for your shift today.
yeah.
Like,
And like
Leanne,
I
how's your
told
mental health? No one ever asked me that.
right, like right for sure.
Yo.
Like it's busy for everyone, but it still doesn't like dismiss the fact that, you know, like we're humans, right? And we're working our butts off to
Yeah,
in these
exactly.
unrealistic. And may I mind you, like this is one like thing that's crazy. At my facility, we stopped taking overtime.
Yeah.
Everyone pretty much stopped taking overtime. Like I said, I was working, I kid you not, like 80 hours per week.
Yeah.
And I was actually making the same amount of money that I'd make working 40 hours a week. Because when you work that much money, they actually put you up in the tax bracket. So not only you have, you know, sometimes managers that aren't, you know, cognizant and they're like not genuinely who would like care about you, but then you're getting screwed by the government. Like
Yeah.
literally like my paycheck would be like 5 6 thousand dollars and I'd still get like 2 grand. It's like
Yeah.
what the heck, like you just stole that that money from me. It's because they're billing you the same as someone who makes 100 grand a year.
Yeah. Exactly.
Getting like screwed on every single level, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
I
crazy.
think we should do an episode on pay rate, maybe discuss wages. Obviously with confidentiality and keep in mind, maybe just talk about our experiences, our incomes when we worked in different roles. I think that would be really interesting. for people to
Oh
hear.
yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think that society has this notion that nurses make a shit ton of money. And, some RNs that do like travel nursing and stuff, hell yeah, they make a lot of money. But like us, like we little LPNs over here, like we're doing the running and we ain't getting paid shit, man.
Dude, it's true. I was once part of this road rage incident that someone had gotten really mad at me for something. I had no idea what it was, but this person came up to me and he was kind of starting a problem with me. And I got out of my car and he was like yelling at me and telling me like I'm a scum, and I'm like, and this and that, and I'm like, look man, like I'm sorry if this happened, but like I'm just trying to go to work. I work as a nurse. And do you know what he said to me?
Oh
He's
gosh,
like,
what?
you don't work as a nurse. You're driving a 2006 Honda Accord. He's like, a nurse would be driving a Benz. I'm like,
What?
yeah, that's what he said to me. I'm like, I just walked away. I was like, you obviously don't know anything. Like, do you think like I can't like I can't afford a Benz,
Man, my brain can't even wrap around the concept that people feel that nurses make this like crazy income. I don't know, man.
right? Yeah,
Anyway, I digress. We need a different
right.
episode for this because
Oh, and
there's a lot to say. Um,
there's so much to say. So, but anyways, do
yeah.
you have anything else like just to end on? Because I'm just looking at the time here. Do you have anything ending things you want to say about working in like management in the role that you do?
Um, yeah, I did want to mention, Joe. A part of the reason why I always sort of wanted to dabble in management was that when I worked in retirement home as a healthcare aide and even as an LPN, I did have a pretty good support system of other nurses and even management. And, there was always this one director of care at a retirement home that I worked at, and she would always push me. And she would say, like, she had good intentions when she said this, obviously, but she would be like, Leanne, like, all through nursing school, she'd say, like, you can do this, man. Like, you can do it, and you're going to be good at it, and then you can be where I am. And I always had these people, and there was a nurse that worked with me on overnights in Ottawa, and she would always say, like, this was the time where I was a healthcare aide passing meds, and she was the nurse, and we worked together, and she would say, like, man, you could be where I am. Like, you're so intelligent. Keep going. Do your school. Do this. Do this. And I think sometimes that can come off as underappreciating the current role you're in. But I think that these people really had a genuine outlook on, maybe my potential. And I just never really saw it at the time, Joe. But
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I'm really just trying to say, like, surround yourself with a team that's supportive and that can see these things in you. And, don't just, if someone tells you that you're capable of something within the nursing field, let's just say, like, oh man, you should work in ER, you're capable of that. Maybe sit down and think about that, because these people are seeing something in you that you maybe don't see in yourself day to day. But I am now in the management role, and, I'm not a director of care, but, maybe that's my goal one day. Or, I've talked to my boss about this and how, I want to be the director of operations for Alberta as we continue to grow. That's my goal. I want to move up. I don't want to just be the nurse case manager forever,
Yeah.
And I think that, surrounding yourself with people who support you and want to see you do well, and, also just, again, like, apply for the position. It doesn't even matter if you're unqualified. Just be qualified to learn, like Joe said. Such a good statement, just be open to new things. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, then go back to floor nursing. You can always go back. Um, yeah, I guess really want to thank those people that always looked up to me and were like, Leanne, you can do this. Like, don't quit nursing school. You can do this. Man, of course it's hard. It's hard for everybody. It's new knowledge. You're overwhelmed, but you can do it, and you never know where it's going to take you. So, yeah, I think I'd like to leave on that, Joe.
So good.
I
That
have
is
lots to say, but
that is
that's
so
just,
good, Dan.
yeah.
And you know what? Toot your own horn, because, and for anyone out there, toot your own horn, right? You have to, like, you earned it, right? And those people coming to you, like, you earned that, right? A lot of people won't just randomly come to you and say these things unless they actually mean it. And also, any of you listening, even if someone doesn't come and say these things, like, we also can't be expected that people are always gonna, like, you know, say these things about you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like, I totally hear you, Leanne. Like, you got to toot your own horn and never be content with where you are. Always strive for something better. That's We live off stress. Like, literally, I don't know if you ever saw that quote where it's like, if there was no up and downs in our life, like, we would just flatline, because whenever
Yeah.
your heart's beating, like in the ECG, the PQRST waves,
Yeah.
uh, and like, that's just it. Like, we constantly need that stress for goal and something greater
Yeah.
to get there. There's this thing from Tom Brady. I don't know if you're into football or anything, but Tom.
Not really.
So, but I'm sure you know who Tom Brady is. Best
Yeah.
quarterback ever. He has all these Super Bowl wins. He has everything. He has the wife, he has the job, he has the money, the cars, everything. And I remember he was doing an interview after his, like, 10 millionth win of the Super Bowl, and he's like, "Is this it? Like, is that it? Is this, like, it?" And he didn't know what to do. And I think I'm not really into football, but he went through all this stuff. He wanted to retire, then he didn't, or like whatever. But the
Hmm.
moral of the story being, he had everything that he wanted, and he was at the top, and he was goalless because he got all of his goals, and he had
Right.
nowhere to go. The moral of the story being, always strive for better. Never set like a peak of the mountain for you, because you'll make it and it will just end there. Like, right? Like, is that
Yeah.
where you want to end? Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, no, that was so good. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We obviously I really enjoyed this episode, just kind of learning more about you, Leanne. I think that's super cool.
Yeah. I love to talk about management and sort of, a different route in nursing, and we can talk about other routes in nursing as well. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. And if you guys have any questions, hit us up on Instagram. Don't forget to share, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, yeah. Peace.